What's going on, guys, and welcome to another Boosted Films video. In this video we're going to take a look at putting window tint on my 2018 Honda Accord. So I brought my Honda Accord to Sign Pro of Plover, where they gave it a good detailing, washed it all up, and got it ready to do window tinting. They've been doing window tinting for like over 15 years, and they were nice enough to kind of let me just film the entire process while they did it. And I asked some questions along the way, did some more research of my own so I can make this video for you guys. And what I'm really going to cover in this video is a couple basic things like why you'd want to get your window tinted, why you might want to avoid the cheap film, why you want to get the good film, and also some questions you might want to ask your local professional if you're trying to decide who you want to select to tint your windows. So that's it for this introduction. Now we're going to cut the film over to the install. So here we are at Sign Pro of Plover, Wisconsin, and Kurt is going to professionally tint my windows. So I would say one of the most interesting things I learned in this process is actually that the darkness or the percent tint you put on doesn't necessarily always correlate to the amount of heat rejection or how well the tint will work. I will touch on this a little bit later in the video as well, kind of comparing the cheaper film to the better film. But I guess it was just a misconception I had myself before that, the darker the tint, the better it's gonna, provide heat reduction and keep your car cool inside. But I did learn that they actually even make basically a clear film that doesn't have any darkness to it at all, that provides a lot of heat rejection and also blocks 99% of UV rays, and it doesn't even look like there's any tint applied. So that was interesting for me to learn. And one more quick note I want to bring up at the beginning of this video is that I found it interesting that there are different types of tint for different types of windows. So, the tempered glass in your car is not going to be the same as the glass that might be for your home if you have double pane windows or something like that at your house. So you would actually use a different type of film for different types of glass. But most of you that follow me know that I am an automotive media channel and I talk about cars. So let's get back into the car window tinting. One item I want to bring up is just to know your local laws as far as what percent darkness tint you can have applied to your vehicle. You really don't want to pay someone hundreds of dollars to tint your car and then get a ticket a couple weeks later and have to remove it. So it is good to know your local laws. They do vary state by state in the United States. And I do have a link down below if you want to try and check out more information about what your state's legal requirements are as far as how dark you can tint. And also note that this will vary per window on your vehicle. Usually you can tint the windows farther back darker than you could tint the windows closer to the front of the vehicle. So now let's say you looked at your local laws and found out that you could tint your front windows at 50% and your rear windows at 35%. Well, what does that number actually mean? This percentage number is referring to VLT, or visual light transmission. And basically, the lower this number is, the darker the tint is. So your 35% tint is going to look darker than your 50% tint. And some of that darkest tint that people refer to as a limo tint is usually around that 5 to 10% range. So again, the higher the VLT number, the clearer the film is going to look, and the lower the number, the darker it will look. So now let's go into the basics of window tinting and why you would want to get your windows tinted in the first place. One main thing is really the aesthetics. I mean, it can make your car look a lot nicer just having the darker window tint. And along with that, having that dark window tint can just give that added layer of privacy where people can't as easily see into your vehicle. But some other practical reasons to get your windows tinted is really just that it can block harmful UV rays, it can definitely reduce the heat inside your car, and it can also reduce glare. And it has been a couple weeks for me since I filmed this install video, and driving around with this summer heat, I have noticed a difference. It is nice that my car seems to be a much cooler inside when I get in than it was before when I had no window tint. So I would say having your windows tinted on your car can be an often overlooked basic feature really to have on your car. So let's talk about this cheaper window film and why you'd want to avoid it. I think we've all seen it where you can see that back window is like discolored, it's kind of purple, and it's got like these big bubbles in it. Well, cheap film is usually the reason why this happens. The cheap window film usually has a lower quality dye that's not color stable or as color stable as it should be, which can lead to discoloring and often that purplish look you'll end up getting after a couple years. The cheaper film also just has this lower quality adhesive, and basically if the adhesive doesn't stick as well or hold up into the heat, that's when you're going to get the bubbles in the back window because it's just not holding on like it should. And also cheaper window films just don't really provide as much UV inhibitors as the good film will. And it's probably also worth pointing out that if you do see some of these bubbles in the back of a car window or a window that has more curvature to it. It may not be just because of a cheap film. It could also be because of the installer and whether or not they kind of did some heat shrinking to the tint before they installed it, you know, kind of how much experience they have as well, because it can be harder to basically tint the windows that are larger and that have more curvature to them. So now let's talk about the good window tint and what to look for in the good window film. So most good window film is going to be this ceramic technology or nano ceramic technology, which is going to be really good for heat reduction. Metallic film can also be good for heat reduction, but the metallic film seems to be going by the wayside because the metallic film can actually kind of interrupt with either, you know, cell phone signals or even with your radio signals. And back to my earlier statement about the darkness not necessarily equating to equal heat reduction. Again, using a good quality film here, even if it's not as dark, can still provide just as much heat reduction as a poor quality film that is a darker percentage. And a good window film will also provide 99% UV reduction. And some of the very, very best window tint today is going to provide some infrared ray reduction. It's going to block up to 80% of the sun's infrared rays. So now, let's say you decided you didn't want to go through the trouble of trying to learn how to do this yourself. You didn't want to go through the effort of buying some tools, buying a heat gun to do it yourself. You took your car to your local shop. What are you going to ask them to figure out if they're the place you want to go to get your windows tinted? Well, the first thing you want to do is make sure they're using a quality, color-stable window tint film. Most reputable shops will be, so this really shouldn't be an issue, but it never really hurts to ask. And like anything else you hire someone else to do, you usually want someone that has experience doing it. So you probably want to ask the shop how long they've been doing window tinting on vehicles. For example, Kurt at SignPro here has almost 20 years under his belt, and you can see by his work, by the quality at the end, that he definitely has a lot of experience doing this. So I was glad that I was able to take it to a shop that had so much experience under their belt. And they also have a warranty, and they warranty their work. That's another thing you probably want to check for when you're looking for a shop. A good shop is most likely going to provide some sort of warranty work or be able to fix something if there are some issues that come up. And one final thing you may want to ask the shop is if they can just actually hand cut their window film. As you may have noticed in this video, SignPro did have a machine that could cut the window tint basically to the specific car they have in their computer system, so it's kind of pre-cut for you. And a lot of shops use that. That's great, but what happens, you know, if the car's not in the system? What happens if, you know, you just need to do some hand cutting? Some people aren't able to do that. So it is good to go to a shop that is able to hand cut if needed. And that's about it for this video. So those are some quick tips that I kind of learned and wanted to share with my viewers. Hopefully you guys found this helpful. As always, I'm curious as to your experiences as well. So leave your comments in the comment section. Let me know what experience you've had with window tint, if you've used the good film, if you've used the bad film, if you've tried tinting yourself and realized how hard it can be. Let me know. And as always, if I stated anything wrong, look for the video description for updates if something needed to be corrected, or leave your comments and correct me, because I know the internet is way smarter than I am, and you guys are the internet. So just leave your comments. Special thanks again to Kurt at SignPro for letting me film while he did the work on my car. Not everyone out there is just willing and ready to let people film them while they do their work, so I certainly appreciate him letting me film while he did this professional tint on my Honda Accord. As always, this is Paul from Boosted Film saying thanks so much for watching.
Most people don't realize the back windows on trucks, vans, and SUVs, even though they're tinted from the factory, offer very little UV protection for kids in the back seat and almost no heat rejection. They're black, so they absorb heat and transfer it inside. So as you're going on a road trip with the kids in the back, the heat from the sun is coming right in. So we tint over a lot of back windows on vans, trucks, SUVs with our premium film for comfort, heat rejection, make it a lot nicer for road trips, or even just, you know, while you're driving alone. It's more comfortable in there.